We're back with more Monster Rancher Monster Ranker. The rest of the monsters I didn't see in my playthrough. And first before we start, here's some fun things I noticed in the model viewer in between making episodes. First off, Fratley's model. And yep, I got a design of his eyes completely wrong. I mean, I did guess they had like black eyeliner, but they also have yellow, and those things are not eyebrows, they're just kind of circles. It also gives more of an idea of what the bodysuit thing is, and I still don't really understand. He's got some kind of metal plate on his crotch, and aside from that, it looks like he's wearing a wetsuit. It does at least have a bit more Falco vibes, because you can see the nose is very clear. It's got two little nostrils, so it is meant to be a beak. And with the eyes, it does generally give more of a bird-like face impression. But yeah, poor decision. The one part which resembles a monster is so small a player will never see it on normal DS gameplay. One extremely weird quirk I found along the way is, you know, the items in the inventory, like when you're feeding the food and stuff, not just a 3D model displayed in front of a piece of interface. The piece of interface is part of the model. They just have a flat cube behind them at all times. An odd way of implementing it. There's also some odd little errors with the models that you wouldn't expect. Some are just misaligned like 1 or 2 pixels. For example, these shard items, some of them are just lower, some of them are even lower, some of them are higher. And a grand total of one single item has the square the wrong size. It's the diet pill thing. I didn't even notice that in actual gameplay. The only misalignment error I noticed on actual monster is adding even more reasons to dislike this one. This Mew and only this Mew is misaligned around like 2 pixels lower than every other monster. I didn't notice it in the library, but probably in actual gameplay it would be slightly clipping through the floor. I wasn't going to retract any complaints I made about monsters like, oh, that texture looks weird and wrong. It may just be some kind of emulation error, because these models in this renderer here had new and different weird pixel problems which weren't in the game. Like this monster here, the lipstick looked totally fine in the actual monster library. Fascinating thing I didn't know, all the Pancho monsters have every accessory they can bring out for their various attacks as part of the model. And these accessories are actually separately modelled and completely different for every different subbreed. They've really put a dedication in. And okay, but now back to the regular review. The base form of the Abyss, and it truly is Anubis, but I like it more than Pokemon's take on Anubis. It is more close to the regular actual Anubis than Lucario is, but I like the stylized proportions, I like how the nose is so long, I like how abstract it is, how it feels like an actual hieroglyphic drawing of the creature rather than, I wouldn't say it's a realistic dog, but it's like, it's the Pokemon way of drawing a dog. It doesn't really stand out amongst the others. And I also I really don't like the colour scheme on Lucario and the weird biological short. I'm not sure why Lucario is so popular. Maybe it's just my definition of what I like for design is different to other people. I don't think it's objective or anything. But anyway, I like this design here. It's a good mix between being the actual literal mythological character and a cool stylization of it. It also does have biological clothes in a sense, but it just having a cape feels so much more normal. Like, those could be fins, that could be like an equivalent structure to wings, or like fins or flaps or something, and it's subtle and it feels like it's part of the body. Shorts or something where it's just like, you can't justify that in a biological sense. And also the fact that the design looks more hieroglyphic and abstract means like, you're not thinking, oh, there has to be a biological reason for that. This is an abstract cartoon creature come to life. And I like how neon and cyber-like the colours are for it. It's a really cool balance of the black with these glowing colours. It's not pure black, it's got this like deep shading to it and everything. It holding the staff and the staff having its own little face and like is that its own separate monster, that's really interesting and quirky, and it's cool with the rest of the design being so heavily cool and no silly aspects whatsoever until the staff. It gives a great sense of personality. I want to just add here, in case you're wondering why I gave it average rank after all that glowing praise, I was honestly really more praising just the reasons I like this design more than a different design. I would say overall in terms of all the monsters in the game, it's just on that baseline like, yeah, that's okay, I like it. I'm a lot more fond of the variants. Anything is going to look medium in comparison when Shadow Mage is the best thing on Earth. Fratley, alas we cannot review you a second time, I still love you. And then Cosmic Abyss, I'm neutral on this because the other one already exists. I have 2 white holy themed ones, and this one just looks better in every way because we have actual changes like the shorter ear, closed eyes too, add a lot to it. The fact that even the pattern on its body is kind of changed, like it's kind of got that pixie trait of looking like it's wearing pants, but it's like a superhero leotard instead, mixed with like a priestess uniform. And it's held back from the fact we just already already have one. They really should have removed one of the two, and it should be the one that just looked like the same guy but white. But also I'll say, in terms of it being a Garly combination, truly the only part of this that is Garly in any way is it just literally has Garly's head on the staff, which looks really cool in the context of the actual design, like a really simple, basic, humble priestess with a really complicated staff. And the face being all eyes closed, no visible mouth, like, is that the real head? Is that the true creature? Is the other thing just a puppet body? All of these things, again, great, just looking at it, but in the context of, yeah, there's already another one, and it doesn't look like the thing it's meant to be combined with. It's just kind of, Nothing will ever top Maskworm for being the best Garly combination in the previous games. Moving on to more ones with the Ogyo, I can never remember it's called the Ogyo. I did like the early naming scheme for Monster Hunter. It's kind of crazy how much it changed drastically halfway through the series. Because the first few games, all the monsters were normal, humble, simple names. Regular animals, the actual mythological creature, an adjective, and then the designs would be crazy and not what you expect for that archetype. Like, for example, the slimes are just called Gel, and then the design is this funky humanoid guy with like a screaming eye-impressed face, and a grape, which is its real soul, and it can transform into a cannon and shoot that soul to kill people. But then in later games we just went to completely made up random words and funky things, and what you'd expect from any other monster game, and I just find it a lot less memorable. I mean, they're more unique, they're more search engine friendly, I guess, but it's not unique to the franchise. It really did feel like a Monster Rancher thing that every monster would have a normal name and abnormal everything else. So I wanted to theorize, what would this one have been if it came out a few games earlier? I think it'd be really funny if they called it a mermaid. They totally would. Evil Fish is the Zan combination. I gotta say, a lot of Zan monsters they're cool, but they're also not interesting. When you see one, you'll like one, but when you see all the others, it's like, oh, they're all the same thing. They are just a black armoured version. They just put the chitin over the monster on top of it. And I like this one. I like the concept of a dark, evil Black Knight fish. I like the star-type sword thing on the back, like, made out of the fin. And it's great having the texture of it. It looks kind of lobsterish, but also kind of like actual armour. And the glowing eyes work really well with a small eye size. It's great how they made the same face go from being cute to being ominous, and looking like one of those knight helmet things that like two parts and they cling together. You know what I mean, the ones that they have on the Ukes from Final Fantasy. But yeah, again, it's tainted by context knowing that every other one with a Zam that I've seen so far looks like that. And here's a basic golem which we never saw, and I don't like it, I don't. I am a complete purist for the anime version of Golem, which is the Monster Rancher 2 Golem. I like the pharaoh-y type head they had on it. I know it's not really much purpose because golems are a Jewish myth, they're not Egyptian, but like the concept of moving rock creatures exists in other myths too. Like, it's specifically clay ones that are Jewish, but they always seem to call them golems even when they're not specifically exactly golems. But I liked it. I really liked the way they structured the face, and then almost every other Monster Rancher just changed it to, here's a regular rock face that looks like every other rock monster in every other game forever, and there's no identity to it whatsoever. So let's go look at Better Golem. Hey look, it's a cool, interesting face. It's like a knight's helmet or an Egyptian hair thing. It's a face that exists and is recognisable as something more than just a lump with eyes. When it came back in 2, they were already kind of changing it, but it's still not as bad. It's like, it's a little bit moai head, like, there was a purpose to changing. I still prefer the original. And then 3rd game, it's lost all the sauce. Why are they determined every single game to make it worse in every possible way? The monsters had the names of classic regular monsters, but they always had a creative design. They weren't just Golem from every other game. Golem from every other game. Golem from every other game. Golem every game. Hey, apparently the online version briefly gave it cool glowing jewels between its joints. That's a cool creative design point that makes it different to any other Golem. The face doesn't, because it's like every game. The second MMO briefly brought back the face, but I can barely see the eyes. The colour grading is really poor here. It's all the same. It doesn't really look like a rock. Actually, it looks kind of like that should be partially transparent diamond or something, but it isn't. It's still shaded like a rock. They got so close to bringing back the cool features and then just threw in something else. And on the Android and iPhone, like every other game. And I'm sorry, just behold how he looks in the anime. Just that way of drawing him, the more detail to his face, the stylization of the eyes. He was so expressive and so emotional. He was such a kind and wonderful man. One of my favourite characters in the whole show. The classic gentle giant trope. Like, the hurting ex-soldier atoning for what he did. His whole quest in the show was to find a way to revive both his dead friends and his dead enemies. He'd spent hundreds of years just sitting in a field of corpses. Like, I was built only to destroy, my mission is over, there is nothing left to do, everyone is dead, and I spent all these years thinking about how what I'm doing is wrong, and trying to tend a flower field on the graves of everyone, and then meeting the main characters gives him hope again. It's like, there might be a way to this might be a way to end this war, to destroy the evil monster Mu, and to finally put an end to this. Like, monsters and humans won't have to fight anymore, we won't all be cowering in fear of one evil overlord man, and you can actually potentially resurrect the dead if you defeat him. And it's just, I would give the world for this man to have that happy ending. And 99% of that is because he has such an endearing and cool and well done design, and it's terrible to look at the games, and almost every single one, none of that is there. I couldn't tell you a single emotion about regular boring Golem. So anyway, regular boring Golem, we're back to him. It's just a rock guy, it's just the Incredible Hulk with a rock texture, there you go. Oh, now this is a good idea. I don't really like the colour scheme of the grungy green they have, but that's a really good idea. Like, it's really fun, it's a Legionnaire, it looks like silver armor, but it's just made of lightly coloured rocks. I like the way how blocky it is, I like how the arms are disconnected discus lines rather than being a long set of rocks. Like, that's cool, it's like it's floating. A really cool interpretation of like a robot knight guy, but not a robot, instead it is made from natural materials. It makes a boring Golem design a lot better. Hooray! I'm gonna praise good Golem ones a lot more now I know how shitty the base one is. I was fascinated trying to figure out what monster it is that everyone's fusing with to turn into these Legionnaire knight things. I did comment this on originally the first monster I saw which had it, which wasn't very good, so it's left out of the video. Turns out this actually is a monster I did know from previous games, and that just doesn't bode well for how memorable it is, but it took me the entire set of 8 hours to figure it out. We'll get to that at the very end. It's the Donk Man! Oh no, this is my favourite. It is truly just a Hanger texture over a Golem, but it looks nice. Hanger hasn't changed as much from the first generation. It makes me feel nostalgic. It makes me feel like, oh, here's a Golem going back to what it used to be. A fun, unfun fact, when I finally get to Hanger, it has been redesigned and does look terrible, but every fusion with it is based on its old design. What happened here? What miscommunication occurred? I'm glad it did, but it really set me up for a punchline, and the fact the whole head is gone really helps, like it's replacing it with the better head of the Hanger. Would you believe what part was ruined? It also just, it works so nice, like yeah, it's just, again, it's a stone version of what's usually metal, and the texture of a stone looks really nice on it. It recontextualizes all these sci-fi markings as like runes inscribed into a stone monument. It's cool, it's basic, it's nice. I like the feet, I like the way the feet are done. I like the feet. I like the hands. I like the hands and the feet. They are well drawn. It is again just a very basic idea, but it's a very basic idea that looks like the old Golems I liked. Now this one here is peak. This is peak the comedy factor of putting Pixie's texture on stuff. It just doesn't look right on a complete square with no other features whatsoever. And it's a shame you can't see here, when I got it in the merge, in the fusion, the animation they had for appearing had them rearing up on their hind legs, and you can see they indeed modelled the whole bikini on the underside. And it looks so wrong and so silly, it's stretched in the worst possible ways. It's funny, it's genuinely just, what is even going on here? It's insane, and I like how the series has a sense of humour. They parody the very concept of their own fan service while also giving you the actual fan service. There is something here for everyone. I also like the flavour text is just so insane. Oh, it fell in love with a human, so it tried to look like a human, and failed utterly in every possible way at understanding what humans find attractive. And apparently, a best-selling biography was made of this. Another one I really like, I'm getting more of a sense, piece by piece, of what this monster must actually look like when we finally get to it. Like, it's a very much more robotic one. I like how they've got the little bit in the centre, like the bendy bus bit that you have that lets buses move that way. Oh, that's a practical feature to have on a robot that's just a box. And they kind of look like trains, almost. They've got that little thing over the bottom of their mouth, like just the eyes poking out. It looks like they're more encapsulated than this. I like how the little feet are like a classic ye olde time retro robot toys, and how even the tail is only partially covered in metal, like a little sword. Every colour Pandora is just a really charming, funny way of putting a costume over a really basic shape. I love them all. They all give me the vibe of Phalanx from Pokemon. Now, Tetra, I really like Tetra. Just, again, colour Pandora always stays winning. It's a really cool, fun interpretation of the hangers. Like, the face isn't even the same as the hangers. It's like they mixed it with a gas mask. I like how now, because the faces can't all be distinct, they instead have different colours for the eyes and different colours for the tails, and how they're like little levers. They even move in different directions to make them all really clear. I feel like the back of it being a bunch of charge and extension ports for different things. God, is there even a single colour Pandora that is the most based thing on Earth? I love it. And I also love how the profile here is like, oh, this isn't actually a fusion between a colour Pandora and a hanger. This is a robot designed based on the colour Pandora by the ancients that originally created the hanger, and it proves that the colour Pandora is even around before the apocalypse. That's wild. And now we are on to Suezo, and I 100% agree with the flavour text. There's just something undeniably charming about it. I don't trust people who find Suezo genuinely off-putting. This used to be the original mascot of a series. It's really nice and creative and original. It's a unique design for an eyeball monster. They're usually floating or on a bunch of different tentacles, ambulating like an octopus. The idea of it just having one singular tentacle and hopping around adorably is really cool. As well, the idea of it having both a big eye and a big mouth. Like, they do play like for gross out fact, oh, it has a big mouth or attacks of licking and stuff. Like, it's charming. It's for comedy. Like, people who say Suezo is genuinely scary in any way, it's like, that's not what they were going for. It's meant to be a funny fella. They're literally the least threatening monster in the entire series. It's known entirely for being very weak and very intelligence focused. It's a little guy, but that's Holly's little brother, mate. That's the uncle of the team in the anime. You can't not love him. Well, I mean, you can. You're legally allowed to, but I'm not going to agree. It's not the best design in the world, it's not the best monster in Monster Rancher, but it's medium, it's normal, it's average, the baseline of good, and anyone who puts it any lower than that, I don't trust you. I mean, logically, like, people can just have different opinions. I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm being hyperbolic for a reason. That's because I feel very strongly about this. Okay, that's the first Nessie one I've actually liked, because the fins and stuff, they go well with the shape of the head. Like, yeah, it does look fun making it a fish. I can easily imagine, though, if it was allowed to fuse with the other fish ones, it might have looked better. It's a nice complementary colour scheme. The reds of the eyes go well with the rest of it not being remotely red in any way. It makes the unique traits of Suezo, like, stand out in a way that complements well with the design. I also like the flavour text being like, everyone mistakes it for a shark and it just wants to swim with everyone. That's pretty cute. Unfortunately, this was the only Suezo fusion I actually liked in this game. All the rest are just too close, too simple, same as the ones we've had before, so I can't really say it's my favourite. It's like, it was okay before, by the standards of Monster Rancher 1 and 2, where all the monsters didn't have very drastic changes, and the other one's just like, oh, that's not as good as the old design, it's actually simpler. Speaking of which, let's move on to that. Oh, they do have Beaklon in this game, they don't have Worm. Oh, fuck you. I'm forever salty. Like, Beaklon and Worm were the only two monsters in the original games which actually evolved from each other, and like, that was the thing. It wasn't like, oh, Beaklon's the better Worm. It was like, Beaklon and Worm are two totally equally valid different species, just one is a secret second species that you can get from raising the first one. And it's nice, and they had reasons to exist together. Like, there is no other substitute worm creature to take the place of Worm. There is no wiggly guy. I mean, I guess close you can get is the colour Pandoras with a whole quirk, because they're not actually a real caterpillar. So I just don't understand why they chose Worm to remove. Just look at these two designs. Let's be quite frank here. One of them's creative and interesting. It's a combination of multiple types of wiggly bug. It's not just a worm. And then we have just a beetle. The only unique trait is that it has kind of grumpy humanoid eyes and it's a little bit fat. Both of those have been removed in this game we're talking about right here. I'm gonna get to Beaklon later in the video, but I just had to put this here. They just slapped the worm's eyes on it, and that's the only trait of worm that gets to remain. Over these two designs, which one do you think would make more sense to keep? The one which has unique things that no other monster has, and the one which is just bug? You literally have, like, salted and unsalted bug. I'm not even knocking because I found the original chubby design quite cute. But it doesn't have the staying power. It also wasn't even more popular than Worm. You can go on any Monster Rancher community online, you can find countless people wondering why the hell they removed Worm, demanding for Worm to come back, saying Worm's the best, saying Worm had the most emotional episode in the anime. I will die on this hill for Worm. Anyway, back to the actual sways though. First example of a phenomenon I like to call, everything Beaklon does is just Worm but worse. They literally just repurpose every single Worm recolor that already existed, now just goes on Beaklon, and they make some arbitrary tiny change to make it look more like Beaklon, and it always makes the design worse. Like here they just slapped the tiniest, most pathetic token effort at a horn on top. And the thing is, I don't even like Fly Eye. It's a completely average, normal, boring design. And they somehow made it even worse. Like, I mean, look at this. It had the interesting trait. It has a stinger instead of a tail. That's cool. Nice animations. The way they shaded and colored the compound eye just looks better. I mean, maybe it could have deserved having something on top as an accessory, but that tiny, shitty little horn is not worth losing all the good traits it already had just for the sake of that. It just does not work for the design. But I will try my best to not get this heated about every other Beaklon design from here on. I'll just be bringing up and comparing them against the original Worm version when relevant. Okay, now we move on to Duck, and here's the basic concept of it. I mean, you could kind of guess from how all the other monsters were that this would be what it was based on. I like it. It's a nice mix of, like, it's obviously a duck, it's also a crazy block toy. Like, that's not a common toy to be picked for toy-based monsters. And it's nice, it's fun, it's quirky. But I don't like how the flavor text just decanonizes Monster Rancher 2 for no reason. Like, that was the quirky, fun origin it has, that it was a secret toy of the ancient times that had evil power and could come to life and become a monster. And now it just says it's not. And, like, okay, why would you want that? What is the incentive of, oh, it's just a regular monster, that's just a monster? What's the point? How is that better in any way? How does that explain that you had to gather a bunch of toy parts from winning a funny contest, from sending in bottle caps from packs of jelly to get the parts for the ducken and then bring it to life with evil glue from the ancient times that would make it into a monster because it was a toy monster made by the ancients? Like, it was a fun and memorable silly quest, and now none of it makes any canonical sense if you just say it's just a regular monster that exists. Anyway, moving on. The design itself is great. Don't care for the lore. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to gently move you over to where you put the Anubis. And I'm going to ask you, why is this not the Anubis? Why the fuck is this Falco? Every fucking Falco mix does not look like Falco. There is no elements of Falco. This is just 100% a regular Pharaoh. Why is this not on the Anubis? The one which actually had that kind of headdress thing already. Instead, the Anubis was literally just it cosplaying the Anubis. Like, you have two things which now look kind of similar, but one is just a better and more detailed design of it, and you have nothing which looks like Falco. Poor Falco! Anyway, I like it. I like how it's incredibly detailed in the text. I like how it's got a faded effect. I like how the colours are very different than anything else in the game. It looks very grungy. It looks like the realistic grime you'd have in early PS1 games about fighting zombies. It's very realistic tarnished metal, and it's just nice and it's cool. It's a quirky take on the idea of combining Anubis with a duck, and it's not in any way combining a bird with a duck. A duck is already a bird. I guess that's what they could have just done. They could have made a version of where, oh, suddenly Duck looks like a really realistic duck, and it's comedic how it still breaks apart and acts like a toy even though it's actually realistic. That could have been funny, but no, we'll forever miss out on an opportunity. Oh, I love you, Grappa Duck. See, that's a good Naga. You notice how I haven't actually showed any other Nagas so far? It's because every single one of them has fallen into the category of like, well, that's not super bad, that's not super good. I don't really like it, but I don't have anything interesting to say about it. It was just repeating the same thing of like, Naga, it has dark purple skin and these light pinky purple highlights, and every single time I was like, I don't really like where you chose to put the highlights, there could have been a better position, and yeah. That's a good use of putting just the texture on the monster in the funniest possible way, because because it just looks so wrong. And the goofy, cutesy eyes on top of such a spooky lizard man it's so good. And it splits apart, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Honestly, so many of the Duckins and Colour Pandoras just fall into this category. Yeah, it's not meant to look cool or traditionally what you'd think of as cute, but it is. It subverts your expectation, it does crazy, bizarre, creative things. It's off-putting in a way that's somehow on-putting, and I actually love it. Also, great puns. But I don't like the flavour text. No, it's not easy on the eyes. It's very easy on the eyes. It's a very funny, adorable, quirky little friend. I don't like the implication that people would dislike this in any way. It's just like those little alien finger puppets. I love it. The vast majority of Duckins are precious, okay? This is especially so. Genuinely wise at a Pancho fusion. It's just a panda bear. We just have two completely normal plush bear versions for Mew. I mean, it's cute. A panda is a cute thing that exists, but is it just a pun that Pancho and Panda start with the same 3 letters? So what I wanted a cool, cute Halloween jack-o'-lantern pumpkin plush. That would have looked so precious. Like fucking Pyro Jack from SMT, but even cuddlier? Oh, come on. I was going to say that this one narrowly escapes being in the bad rank because the design isn't quite as crap as the teddy bear, but later things we'll find out later put this right back down again. It's in the stinking pits. Mew, another classic. This one I definitely think has also had a redesign with how Mew's design has changed over the years. I remember this being a character in the anime and it being like a really chubby thing. Side villain in one of the later seasons. I don't remember much about her, but she was kind of fun. Truly is just a plushie of pics. Not too much creativity with the stitches or the interpretation of how you would make that happen. Like what I mean here, like what I really liked about Eared Mew was like, oh, every single bit of it has been clearly replicated with fabric. Here it's just like, well, we drew the regular pattern from Pixie, there's no real idea of how that's being managed with fabric. The ideas I had were like, oh, have doily lace patterns in that colour, or make it patchwork Frankenstein stitches in the shape of it, or like a gradient print on the fabric, like it isn't stitched together, it's all one thing, but it just happens to be in these colours. I feel like extra bit of handcrafted charm really does do a lot of these particular designs. I mean, I guess I like the idea that the hair is just flat on the head, it's just sewn in, it's not actually a new thing on top of it. Complaint I had for multiple other bad Mews, moving it over here. Every Mew where they removed the ears, you can really tell they removed the ears. Like, it doesn't look perfectly spherical, the shape of the head, you can just see where it was cut out. The little darker orange line you can see there. I'm gonna look at the old designs for Mew. Okay, they were terrifying. I think they must have changed that for the anime. I don't remember her being... Why are the eyes so incredibly detailed and so not plushy? It kind of looks like a real-ass human being was cursed into this doll body. This is some haunted shit you'd see on, like, sci-fi originals. Yeah, in the anime, she just looks like a regular furry. She was cute and charming. She was like a little chubby lady. She had funny quirks. The anime really is like 10 for 10 on improving shitty designs from the early games. Oh, I love you. Oh, new favourite pal. Oh my gosh, a skeleton plushie. This is what I meant. I wanted a nice Halloween plushie. I love the red eye. I love the sunken eye socket patterns around them rather than actually being sunken eye sockets. I love how it's got like spiky horns on its head, but it's also like a funny tiara. I love how it's got a mustache for some reason, but it might also be like an attempt to mimic like stitched up teeth like a zombie, but it comes out looking like a mustache because it's got such a basic face. I love how they couldn't really make an actual skeleton, so it's just got a bodysuit with a skeleton drawn on the front, like a little snuggie. And I love it just gives energy of a grandpa with that mustache. One thing I gotta say is, again, the weird fold thing where all the ones with the ears went off, it's the only thing holding back the design. This is the most positive of all the plain round-headed Mews. I love this one. I also have no idea which one this is mixed with. What this icon is here, this kind of like grumpy statue man. This was, again, actually a returning monster from one of the previous games, which I should have known, but in my defense this time, it was completely redesigned. That just looks like a better face for Golem. I'm not sure how that could become a skeleton. Is that like a new face for the Dullahan or something, or the Joker? This is in fact the exact two monsters it is. I'm looking forward to finding out whoever you are. Eventually we're going to get to the point where there's entirely new monsters, and that's going to be so fun. I also love the flavor text saying, oh, it only looks like this because it got struck by lightning. Like an old cartoon trope. And just to clarify here, because I somehow didn't mention it, this is still ranking below Fratley in the bestie rank. I'm not quite sure if I put this above or below Eared Mew. They're both kind of on the same tier of, wow, that's a really good Mew. And that's really surprising because I normally don't like Mews. 2 of them right up there in the highest ranking of all. So okay, Baku, like it's really hard to rank Baku. I appreciate what Baku stands for. Its original concept was just, this is the biggest monster we can make, it fits the maximum model limit. It was the special one you can only get when you unlock the higher upgrades of your barn. And unfortunately because of that, I feel like it hasn't changed over times as that purpose has kind of become outdated. It truly is just basic dog. Compared to the design we had in the first game, they just added more random spots and textures to the hair. And it's kind of made it worse. Like going for more visual fidelity, you're losing like the whole appeal. Just it's a goofy cartoon Muppet. It's a children's drawing of a dog. And especially in the eyes, I feel like there's a nice charm in how silly the original eyes were. They're almost uncanny, but like in a positive way, like Ducken. I mean, you're never gonna make Baku generically cute. Trying to do that has made it like actually genuinely uncanny, not in a positive way. Before it looked wrong on purpose, now it just looks like a mistake. That's a good use of Golem. It's very kind with little eyes. That's got the energy of the real Golem, the original Golem, the Golem that we lost so long ago. I also love how its feet are like zigzaggy little slinky-esque things, sets of rocks that are floating like that. That's really cool. I love how both the tail and the ears have the same kind of aesthetic of like a pendulum with just one small rock at the bottom. That's nice. They've done a lot of creative things with just having a basic rock texture and some glowing eyes on stuff. Almost every single Golem fusion looks better than Golem itself. Oh, and this is one of the ones I got in my fusion. I'm like, oh, that's one of the worst things I have ever seen. It's a shame because, like, the design itself, like, a funny dog with fins for ears and a little angler horn on the top. Like, that could be cool, but it's the way they give it such detailed, chapped lips. I know that's a trope of eel-based characters in Japanese culture. It's like, oh, if they're humanized in any way, they have that kind of the same lips you'd give a stereotype of a black character, but it's not the stereotype because the character isn't black. But I can see what they're going for, but the pink is a really bad contrast to the rest of the design. Like, it doesn't look like the good complementary pinks you'd have on, for example, the trans flag or anything involving mixing pink and blue. It's just the detail, the fact that they're so chapped, they have so many lines, they're so scrunked up. It just looks unhealthy. It's just like, oh my god, this poor thing does have gum disease. Put it back in the water, it's clearly not fit for land. And like, the rest of the design is quirky and simple and fun. And they're just really realistic mouth. It's like a creepypasta thing. What a shame! But I like its funny flavor text saying it's not actually a mix of these two monsters. It is a real, actual, regular eel that was struck by mutagenic lightning and grew dog legs. And it can predict earthquakes somehow. But the name does suck. Electri-eel. Like, why not Electrial? Just remove the I. I was going back through this and editing and being like, why did I put this in the worst rank? I was saying the design could have been cool and I felt it was bad because it missed that potential. I should rank it a little bit higher. And I remembered the mouth looks even worse when it's open. That's the first thing you see when you summon it. The worst first impression you could ever get. Yeah, I'm sorry, little guy, you gotta go down. But you are the one solo one in the worst rank, which I think you could have been better. If someone gave you the love you deserve, if someone gave you a moisturization routine, there are two pandas. Generally, why did you waste a slot on the Panda Mew if somebody else was going to have Panda as a novelty slot? Like, this is why that one's retroactively being knocked down a slot. Why did you waste the Pancho slot of all things? Pancho is one of the coolest monsters. I mean, I kind of like this one better. It's obviously not as cute in any way, but it looks more quirky and unique to have a texture on a monster that just you wouldn't expect to be a panda. It doesn't just look like an actual panda. It's funny to imagine it lives exactly the same as a panda. This thing, galumphing through the mountain, destroying everything in its wake. It's like the size of a bus just to eat some bamboo. I have several feelings about this. Like, I like it because I like really scrungly fucked up mutant things with funky faces. It's got a cute aspect of the tiny eyes and the big pig nose, but also, wow, it's impressive. This is the most change we've seen to the actual model in a novelty one. This just feels like a completely unrelated different character. And it was! Which just is equally large. Like, the only thing in common is the fact it has 4 feet, but the design for the feet is different too. And I like it, but also, kind of frightening how big it is on the screen and how zoomed it is. Like, it's even bigger than regular Baku. And that's a shame. Like, if they just zoomed the model out a bit, I wouldn't have had such I'm a little bit scared actually for second reaction there, because I do really like this design. I like it. I like the subtle, strange, mossy texture on its back. I like the lump. I like these crater volcano things on the back, like similar to the things that are on Wendigomon from the second Digimon movie. It's nice. It's cool. I think it must be a reference to something. It's such a specific, totally different design. Like, is this just an enemy from a different game about fighting aliens? I'm looking this up. This is a reference to a game, and the game is Monster Rancher. This is generally, it was a different species. It was a non-recruitable enemy in the MMO, a non-monster, like an alien that the monsters were fighting. I guess that makes sense why, like, we have to have an enemy, so they're aliens, not monsters. And they just chose this and no other enemies in the game to become actually obtainable as a real monster in a game. And it also says this is not available normally, like, naturally in the English version. It was a special code you got from playing the MMO in Japanese. So this cheat has let me see a monster I had no way of ever seeing naturally and would not have been able to review for you guys if not for the amazing power of CodeJunkies.com. I actually got so distracted by how confused I was, I didn't make a concluding statement. This one could have been in the bestie category, but the whole bizarre situation around it drags it down. Like, if this had been its own creature, if this could have been a base form and then you had fusions with this creature, definitely would have been really high up in the ranks. And if it didn't have a scaling issue, which I'm assuming is because they quite literally just ported a model straight from the MMO and slapped it onto somebody else's animation framework. That's fascinating in a technical sense, but I don't know, they're putting it the second highest rank it can possibly be. That's definitely some kind of glitch. Baku Baku. And it's a human scientist man wearing a mask shaped like the muzzle of the Baku. This design is wild, and this is probably also a reference to something, because, like, that's so specific. It's not just a scientist man, it's like a guy in some kind of battle suit with a helmet thing, and the fact it has no entry here, and the name is really weird like that. I think this must be a removed monster from the Japanese version, because I've heard about that. Like, I knew that happened in Monster Rancher 1 and 2. There were some monsters removed that were changed, and, like, texture swaps, or ones that were just completely deleted, that got restored in the Switch version. If this happened to other games, this might be another one of those. Its name was indeed a glitch of a removed character. Its actual name is Baku Baku Racer, and the uniform is meant to be the racing characters from a different game. That's why it's got a helmet, because it doesn't fit on. Barry Legend is the name of the game. Maybe it got removed because, like, that series hasn't got localized, or they couldn't get the licensing to have it in English. And it says here the other one removed is X-Palco Dummy Falco. And there were 272 monsters originally, 2 of them are removed in English. And when I check my monster library, it does say 270, the removed number, even though I've got them added back in with this cheat. I'm not going to save the game in this state, because, I mean, it might glitch out the fact we have 2 monsters that we're not supposed to have. This also made me realise Gemo is not one of the removed monsters. Gemo is still counted for 100% completion and has a fully translated entry, even though it's apparently, according to the wiki, no one's ever found any way to unlock it in the English version. So that means the library is uncompletable naturally in English without this cheat. That's a really big oversight. And here we have it's the classic, it's the fun bunny one. It's a nice stylized design for an Anthro bunny. It's popular with both furries and people who just like cute animals. But I gotta say, this is not my favourite design of it. I prefer the one in the original games and the way it was done in the anime. Just the icon there you'll see is what it actually looked like. The hair didn't flop so much and the cheeks were wider. It was that the whole head has just become wide rather than having big cheeks, if that makes any sense. It looks more like how you draw the same thing on a greeting card rather than being a unique stylized type of cute. Also, I really don't like the flavor text saying it's a joke on how the hairs used to have a chubby belly in the previous games. It used to have actual, like, it was comedic. They used jiggle physics on the belly to bounce. And in the favour text it says, oh, they used to become obese, but now, because of good training, they're not obese anymore. Obese. They were not obese. It was just a tiny belly on a rabbit. It's the bare minimum of fat. It's still fat. Like, come on, that's a fat design. That's just not an obese, because that's not an unhealthy fat person. That's just a chubby person. And it used to have a slightly chubbier belly, and that was completely fine. I don't know why the definition of obese for this monster would be like 5% more body fat. I must say, I don't think it's a bad design or anything. I'm just like, if I'd seen this first, I wouldn't have become as much of a fan of hair as I was. I would just like, that's normal. It does remind me of Care Bears in a bad way. Like, that's just the bare minimum of cute. I gotta say, the in-game graphics for hair in the first game were, but I'm talking about how it was actually drawn in the concept art. It did a much better job in the second game. As you can see, it's a little bit fatter in the belly, but I wouldn't say that's obese. Like, come on, man. And this here, as you can see in the GBA game, that's what the actual stylization of the design was. Like, the hair's a little bit fluffier, the cheeks seem rounder, it has that more sass, that mischief to it. Oh, this is where the new design came in. Like, okay, that's even worse than we got here. That's very much like, we just tried to draw it more cute. Like, it wasn't already cute. It was already 100% cute. If you want to change something, put on new patterns, put fluff in different places. Don't try and make it more cute. It was cute. You make it less cute every time. Okay, Monster Rancher Advance, you did make it more cute. You succeeded. But that's just because it's a chibi. Every monster in that game is a chibi. I really don't like Monster Rancher 4. Ooh. A combination of that more cute, quote-unquote, design and, like, strangely realistic rabbit mouth, and the cheeks look all crumpled. I mean, I guess, technically, because it is the whole joke in Japanese, it's named hamster instead of hair. Maybe they intentionally gave it hamster cheeks, but it just looked like those uncanny valley robots with, like, fake human skin over them. Or like a Teddy Ruxpin doll. I don't know why, I wasn't very fond of Teddy Ruxpin dolls and Cabbage Patch dolls. Looks a lot better in Monster Rancher Evo. You really polished up that design. And you can see, yeah, clearly this one here was based on that. Monster Farm Online goes back to the one we had, but goes more for a badass rather than cute aesthetic to it. Comparatively speaking, that's a better redesign than all the other ones. I still prefer the original though. And let's look at how cool he was in the anime. Like, just come on, just look at that. That's a design. That's the design of all time. That's everything you want. That's a perfect mix of, like, it's cute and it's also a scrappy little sassy dude. And, like, that fits the personality he had in the anime, but that came from the fact the sprite already looked like that. They based on that already existing. There was already concept art. And you will look at him and you will feel proud. Also going to say that the hair in the anime, his unique trait was having a bandana instead of a hairy fluff around his neck. There's no way the hairy fluff could still exist. It doesn't fit under where the bandana is. So you can imagine this design just doesn't have it at all. I think it looks better. I wish it had always stayed that way. Stunning update from the future. The better redesign than the online one. Like, one of the only good online redesigns, actually. There was a special variant where you could actually get hair from the anime's little bandana to dress it up. That's lovely. I think it could have been cool if they committed to this, like, either it not having anything, or it always having a different accessory for every breed. Like, oh, this one has a scarf, this one has a collar, this one has a necklace, a chain for the evil hair. It could have been cool. And I like this body shape too, like him being pear-shaped, him having a belly. It's basic, it's nice, it's fun. It is not a negative depiction of being overweight. It's not inspiring children to become obese. It's just a guy. And he's funny and I love him. He's proportioned like a kangaroo. It's like, it adds even more to this being a crazy mix-up animal with a rabbit with everything else. Anyway, we're back, and yeah, compared to that, proportions of the head and the body, like, it's still, you can tell it was originally pear-shaped, but the body is much smaller, the head is much bigger, the eyes are all overly detailed rather than just being little dots. Of course, at least it keeps the same classic animations. The hair always moved like this, that was nice. But definitely falls apart from the idea, like, it's the cutest mascot everyone loves. Every generation we've got to add more stereotypically cute traits, and obviously its popularity is going to drop because we already liked it. It was already cute. You don't need to change it. As much as I complained about the inconsistency in some of the pixies, none of them bugged me as much as removing the soul from hair. It has 2 robot rabbit forms, 2 of them, and one of them is just better. I thought I was doing pretty good with leaving in every monster that was needed to understand a review for another monster. I evidently missed this one. Here is almost basically the design on screen. This is it from a different game where the only difference that's happened to it over time is they changed the V to an X. This is the only available screenshot of it from this game, and I don't know why it's so shit. Wiki, get your act together. Anyway, I wasn't as fond of it because there's a lot of different monsters that are very Gundam or like general superhero mecha show related. If you're already going to have a repetitivity of multiple of them having a robot one, you may as well pick different types of robots. So that's why I prefer this one better. It's like more of a cyborg. Its head kind of looks like a chamber pot or a plant pot. It's instead the version of the night. Like, I guess you could see this as being armor over a regular guy, but it looks like a robot guy. Like, you have to go in and squint to see that the black parts are actually still furry in texture. It's just better. It's a cool wind-up little clock. It looks like a fun virtual pet the ancients would have made. That was the lore for the previous design. It looks like a combat robot like everybody else, but it is in fact not. Even if you interpret it as a guy in armor, it's cool, it's fun, it's got the quirky mad scientist eyes, it's got cybernetic ears, like did it lose its own ears in the war? It's cool, it's fun, I love the contrast of the black and the silver and the highlights in the yellow, and just the red tips on the end make it look like a jet engine. It's really cool, and I don't know why you went and made a second one. Was it just not communication between the people making different variations? Like, we have 2 pandas, we have 2 robot rabbits, we have 3 in total transforming robot-themed things. Strange, very strange. Yeah, I just left all of those out because I don't like them. A lot of Ducken subbreeds made a joke like, oh, the Ducken colours are similar to whatever the base most popular Gundam guy is that you always see cameoing in everything, so he's cameoing in this again. But it just kept happening. Leave them all out. Jack in the Cho is a funny name, but it makes you think of a Jack-o'-lantern as well as a Jack in the Box. Like, isn't the one we already had a Jack-o'-lantern? So it gives you a second to figure out what the pun is actually meant to be. But I really like this. Completely changed the entire texture for anything outside to be a treasure chest. It makes me go back and go, Shalincho could have been better. Like, it could have just been a full-on regular shell texture. You didn't have to keep the vague shape of the pumpkin. If they can do this, they can do that. But I love this. I love it's just a random mummy in a treasure chest. It didn't even go for making it a mimic. It's just a mummy. Okay, I gotta say, that's one thing. It is a bit clashing. It could have made it, like, inside an urn or some kind of treasure that you would find in a mummy's temple, rather than, like, a very modern, very medieval treasure chest. Or they could have just put a regular ghost inside or a mimic. But that one thing aside, the random factor of mixing these 2 things is really funny and entertaining. That's a really, really cute design for a tiny spherical mummy. I will forever stan the ones in Soul Eater. I love this guy. And I'm really curious what on earth this little grey golem looking guy is. I'm really suspecting it might be the Jokers, which were a Grim Reaper themed monster crossed with like a card game Joker in the previous game. I really liked them. But I want to think, like, why is that such a trope in Japanese media for Joker characters to always have a scythe? Was there a point where the Joker on cards has had a scythe? Just want to say I did do my research. I could not find an answer to this anyway. It's just very common. But yeah, it would make sense for this to be like, oh, Joker makes every other monster like some kind of spooky variation, but it's always different every time. This is the Superior just wearing a cosplay of the monster, like, compared to this shitty Ducken. It's a really good cosplay. It's like its entire beacon. It's really fun with the eyes being so big and being like, that's how you do eyes that can also double as ears in a good way. I missed another one. This is the original complaining about all of the circular head Mews having the same glitch one, and also it just looks bad. It looks like it's wearing a bra on its head. And it's funny how, like, the underbelly is really light and it looks like abs. And really funny on a tiny shape, and it's got a whole watermelon, a very detailed and well-rendered watermelon. There's a trope in Japan, apparently, that beetles in particular like watermelons, and I don't know if that's actually true, because, well, in my country, it's just not common to have beetles at the time when you have watermelons. Like, watermelons aren't as popular over here as they are in America, so the trope would be more kind of like, pretty much any other fruit you eat in summer, and ants instead of beetles. But yeah, I know that because in the show Medabots, there was an accidentally problematic moment, which was a total coincidence of just things lining up in the dub. In the dub, the beetle robot just happened to be voiced by a black actor, and they didn't know that there was an episode where the beetle eats a watermelon. Just goes to show that despite everyone having positive intent and nobody in the team being racist, accidents can still happen. And I don't blame a single person. There's no way anyone could predict that. I'm going to bump this one up in the ranking retroactively. This turns out this was the only Beaklon sub-fusion I actually liked in the whole thing. And I think the reason is because it was added after Worm was already removed from the roster, so they actually did something creative with Beaklon. But there are still going to be some other things when we get around to Beaklon main body, something else sub-body. Let's see some more pixies. Oh, Sueko! See, I like her. That's a good, simple pun on the same name, but funny, because Ko is a common Japanese name ending for female names. Like, it's like, if you put, like, L on the end in English. And I like this design, like, making it have little butterfly wings. Again, I'm not sure what the association is with Suezo, except just the fact it has fake eye patterns, but you can put on any kind of wings. It's a shame that we don't have Worm. It would be really nice to have a Worm one which had butterfly wings. That'd be nice. We actually did! It was one of the ones I just didn't happen to get in Monster Rancher 2, and I think it looks better. That's cool. I especially like the different patterns they had on the wings on this one particular card from the card game, and I like the design here. It's got a different kind, like it's more of like a jumpsuit instead of a bikini. It does seem a little bit weird how only the pants are a different colour and the same colour as the hair, as opposed to regular Pixie, the whole body, the whole bikini being hair. It looks a little bit strange and a little bit accidentally lewd when only the pants seem to be hair. And I don't think they are actually hair. I think it is just a contrasting colour for some reason. But I like it having a little tiny Suezo tail in the back. I like it having like Shrek ears made of other Suezo tails. This is a good medium for me. Also, it's really hard to tell. I'll zoom in on the footage, but I think it has an eye on its belly. Oh, the pants are meant to look like the tongue. Okay, that's full on ruined the entire design. That's a disgusting choice. I'm sorry. I could see the comedy in that design if it was like, I guess, bigger and placed different. There's like a tongue on the belly or something, and the eye is on the boobs. Even if you put the eye on the boobs, it would be less fan service than putting the eye directly above the groin, which is now a tongue. Especially because none of the rest of the design is fan servicey at all. It's more covered up than the regular Pixie. It seems so incongruous. Every element here feels like a totally different design. They were just kind of smashed together. And also just the fact the eye is so small you can barely see it. Like, it's really unidentifiable as a Suezo evolution until you see that. Maybe it could have had the eye on its forehead, or had it be a Cyclops, or had it be on the chest, and just had your fan service and eaten it too, without grossing people the fuck out. Also, what do you mean the prism floating in front of it contains its schedule? I like the idea and feel like, oh, it's a monster that seems like it has everything together, but it just has a really extensive diary, but there's no prism floating in front of it. Is that a letter from a previous game? Because I think, if I remember correctly, there was a monster in one previous game which had a floating prism. It might have been the Undyne, the one that's completely gone now. Or is there just a rendering error that's supposed to have a floating jewel of some kind that's not there? I don't know what's going on. I'm checking up other designs for this. Honestly, like, I wish I could compare all of these and have other designs for every single one of them, but this is already becoming a massively long video because I didn't know there were so many monsters. It did have a unique floating, like, it wasn't a prism, it was a mirror shaped like the eye, and the quirk was, oh, it's a very vain Pixie, it's always looking at its own face in this eye mirror. I gotta say, I don't like this design either, because it is just a very normal human woman wearing a yellow leotard, and the only Suezo thing at all is the eye-shaped mirror, which is very translucent, so you can barely even tell it has an eye pattern. But still, that's something. It's a bit more visible, and you can see the eye here on this one. And yeah, it's definitely a leftover, because in Monster Rancher 4 you have this current design here, but it still has the eye mirror. In Monster Rancher Evo, it still has the eye mirror. It looks a bit more like a banana. And yeah, if you see in the DS, the mirror is just gone. And in the Android game, it comes back. Really big oversight there. If the DS cannot handle a partially transparent mirror, just don't write in that it has one. Come on, man. And don't give it a mouth groin. In fact, I would go so far as to say never give anything a mouth groin unless it's meant to be actual horror or a porn. Like, I appreciate they wanted to redesign the design to be more Suezo-ish, but if you just, I don't know, put the eye as a choke around the neck, and the tongue is like a colour on the pattern of the bikini, like it's a long orange stripe that goes down between the boobs and it meets in the middle or something. Like, if you didn't want to be fan servicey, there's ways you could do it non-fan servicey. If you did want to be fan servicey, you could do it fan servicey. Just don't do it like this where 99% of the design doesn't look gross and then it's the grossest possible thing. Just slapped right on the fatty. Okay, Mischief, a new worst Pixie. 2 in a row! Combo breaker! At least, again, I think it's meant to be bad on purpose. It's meant to be a joke of, like, yeah, it's like the sexy Halloween costume version of Duckin', and it's funny to, like, purposely taking a sexy design and ruining the sexiness entirely. But I feel it just doesn't work well as that. It's not really as outlandish to be funny. Yeah, it's the wrong sizes, everything is wrong, it's kind of a stupid design for it, and we've already seen pretty much every Duckin' already goes for this idea of every monster looks wrong wearing a Duckin'. So I don't know. There's been been funnier. That's why this is unfortunately losing out on the usual duck and claws. It lands on just actually worse, even though it was intensely trying to be worst. It tried and missed and landed up succeeding more than its wildest dreams. You may have noticed I've bumped it up a rank. When I went back and looked at this in editing, I'm like, yeah, it's bad, but is it worse than Suezo Tongue Groin? I don't think anything can be worse than Suezo Tongue Groin. Suezo Tongue Groin is the new stick with which everything will be judged. Like, this one here, it's got more overall quantity of bad things, but that compared to one single thing which can instantly destroy any design as soon as you put it on, no matter how neutral you were before, it's like a fucking eldritch object. It must be contained for our safety. They brought back Undyne, okay, giving you some points. And I like that as a redesign for Undyne, actually. Because it was just kind of like mostly a normal human woman, but a body made of water, which is really cool. Like, it was an interesting twist on the mermaid, where, like, rather than having a fish tail, she had a tail made entirely of, like, a waterfall. It's a good interpretation here. Like, we've made it less just a person. The colours are very similar, but it's more like techno exaggerated version. They're very high contrast on the green of the hair and the body being like almost alien while also recognisably fishy, and how the bikini's been totally changed to be like a wetsuit, and it's got little fins on the legs. Like, again, I brought up Hermes twice in this comparison, and the tiny tail, like a demonic version of a dolphin tail, and the fins being so fleshy. It's really giving me like Police Notes, or like the same kind of like 80s mutant that Mewtwo is based on. It's a good scrungly vibe, and a really unique take on, well, yeah, here is a fish monster that's different to a mermaid. And I like the ears. Like, again, I like how we have different lengths and sizes and positions of different elf ears, but here they're also the same as the fins and the wings. It's funky, I love it. I really like it as a revival of a long-lost monster, and it makes so much sense to make it just a subspecies of pixie that's merged with a water type. Because, I mean, they did have so much overlap, and I do understand that's why the monster was removed, but I mean, it was a nice monster. I'm glad it's coming back. I'm glad it's coming back in the best possible way. I really like this. Let's go look at what it originally looked like, because I can't even remember. I think it did have the same kind of hair. It might have been bold blue or purple hair instead, but the rest of it, everything from the neck down has been totally changed, and it's all for the better. Yeah, here's the original. I was right. It's a bold blue hair. It's like a mermaid, but made of swirling water instead. And it kind of did feel like a mix of a pixie and a gel. It makes sense it couldn't really stay around as a separate category, a whole different species. I'm glad it came back. I'm glad it came back even cooler. Especially if it completely lost the aspect of having part of its body made of water. They could have still had this design and just still made the legs join together into a tail. Also, what the fuck was going on in the MMO? That just doesn't look like the same thing at all. I mean, that's a cool design for a robot mermaid, but that looks more like the Fell Sea from Final Fantasy. And I'm not saying that as an insult, I love those designs, but it sure as hell is not an Undyne. The second, like, Android and iPhone app thing that, like, plugged into the Line messaging service actually brought back the original design, but it's a lot more generic and anime, and, like, a regular actual mermaid tail, but with a water texture over the top. Not as distinctive. I prefer this redesign a lot. And this is a page for the redesign, which is now listed separately because it's a pixie subspecies. Oh, it was very different in the first appearance. Gotta say, I don't like it. It's a nice joke, and the flavor text says, oh, it looks like gel because maybe they're going out. That's fun. I do like aspects of the design, like it having 2 feet which are both individually a mermaid tail. That's cool, but again, it just being all mostly the same colour and mostly featureless and accessoryless too. I mean, its original was just a blob of water, but it at least wore an outfit. I want to just add in here, because I forgot to mention, because it kind of goes without saying, but I do like how this design is a bit more androgynous. Like, this could work for a boy or a girl sexy fish person. It is always a bit strange how most monsters in the series have no stated gender, and then it's only the pixies that are all female. And only like half of the sub-breeds of pixie become female, and the others just stay either neutral or dudes. Actually, I think Golem is always portrayed as male. That's the one we found. I think it would be legit cool if someday we had a novelty question mark pixie that was just the same design but masculine. That seems like such a basic idea, it's surprising they haven't done it yet. I like this one so much more. I really like this one. It's so good. It's such a great mix of sci-fi and fish. And I never would have expected that. It's actually kind of fascinating how they have 2 app games and one of them has this Undyne and one of them brought back the original Undyne. That's cool. It really shows how much they care about the fans. Except they didn't really bring back the original Undyne. They brought back a redesign that was kind of a bit, like, meh. But they tried. They brought back the aspects of the original Undyne. And I can appreciate that even if I didn't like the art style of that particular game. Also, back to the flavor text, I like the idea in lore, but both Undynes did exist, and Undyne wished to be a faster swimmer and transformed its body at the cost of losing its memories of not being a pixie. That's cool. And we are ending on a high note, one of the best designs following the worst, and the coveted title of the only pixie to enter the bestie category. I really like this. The end of another video, and who boy, this is going to keep on going for a bit. I think I'm going to estimate this is going to end up at probably 4 videos. I have cut it down from 8 hours to 4 hours. That's still an accomplishment, but wow. I'm probably not going to do this full review of whole bestiary again unless it happens to be a game with a smaller amount. So this is video 2, 2 more to go. Feel free to tap out at any time. I will at the very end be putting a tiny compilation video of just everything in bestie tier, which will probably be under 10 minutes. It's a very exclusive club, and Undyne deserves to be proud of her accomplishment today.